with breaking news on one of the serious flood situations that we're tracking across the country this week. The entire community of Hay River in the Northwest Territories is this morning under an evacuation order. That was the order that came just before midnight. Everyone in town told to leave their homes for higher ground. Parts of the community have already been underwater for days now, and many residents had already fled. But now, after days watching the river climb higher and higher, the entire community is forced to go. And we have live coverage for you this morning, beginning with Juanita Taylor in Hay River. Live for us, Juanita, tell us about the alarm going off, what has happened overnight, and the situation this morning.
Well, Heather, sirens rang through the town as the sun was setting just before 11 p.m. That's just after that, the town of Hay River issued an evacuation order for the entire community to leave. That's about 3,700 people. Water flooded streets, surrounded homes, and emergency workers and residents started going door to door, helping people to get out, including seniors and people with mobility issues. So, Heather, take a listen to what one resident told us.
I just finished packing up my whole kids. I picked up my friend next door with her 2 kids and her dog, and we're just trying to get out of here. My dad just lives down the street, and there's already lots of water in his backyard, and he just lives down this road. It's asking to drive. We're just trying to get our family out of here safe, so we're all safe.
Are you scared?
Yeah, I'm scared. Just because my mom came crying at my house, knocking on the door, crying, and she said that my dad's house is almost underwater.
Really, Juanita, you can hear that fear. You can hear the urgency to get to safety as everyone is told to evacuate. Now, where have the people of Hay River gone?
Yeah, well, Heather, dozens of people who don't have any means of transportation. They met here at this evacuation center. Then they were put on 2 buses to go to Enterprise, which is about 38 kilometers from here, the town of Hay River. Now, some people, of course, who do have their own vehicles, they went to Yellowknife, and Yellowknife is about a 5-hour drive from here. Part of the town, Heather, is without power, and officials are watching closely to make sure the rest of the power doesn't go out completely. Now, it's not clear how many homes have been damaged yet. It hasn't been assessed, but we also don't know when people are allowed to return home.
Juanita, thank you for everything. We will speak again, I hope, for more live coverage as you bring us the latest hour by hour. Juanita Taylor is in Hay River, as is our first guest this morning. Jane Groenewegen is with me. Jane is a resident of the community, but also a former member of the Northwest Legislative Assembly. She is on the telephone. And Jane, number one, good morning. How are you? Are you okay and in a safe position to talk to me this morning?
I believe I am, Heather. Good morning. Yes, I'm still in Hay River, but able to communicate and talk with you this morning, yes.
Well, I appreciate that. Tell us a little bit about where you are in the community, Jane, and what you're able to see from that vantage point.
Well, I think a lot more will be revealed as we get to full light here this morning. It's really hard to kind of assess everything that occurred during the night. We have a hotel apartment right downtown Hay River. It's a 4-story building, and so my husband and I, they say go to higher ground. We have quite a bit of property actually in the downtown of Hay River, and we felt that this was a safe place for us to stay. Our own home, where we actually normally reside, was not accessible to us last night, so we came here to the hotel, and some of the guests remain here at the hotel as well, but we are up several floors here.
So you're safe. And can you see, what does it look like out the window, the water all around you, Jane?
Yeah, the river is to the east, and there's a parking lot to the west, and the water did not come up in this part. Right at this very point on the river here. We're located right on the river, but it did not come here. The water from the river entered into the downtown area at several points and into residential areas and into a ravine, and it just entered, into residential and commercial areas at several different points, not at this particular point where we are, though.
Okay. But that's a really important point you make for people who won't know Hay River necessarily. The part that's now flooded out, as I understand it, Jane, is called Newtown, and that was a town built specifically because of flooding to Old Town, devastating flooding in 1963, and this is the first time that water has reached Newtown. Is my understanding of that correct?
That's correct. I've been in Hay River almost 50 years, and this is the first time I've ever seen the Hay River breach its banks in the new town. And certainly that is why the town was relocated in 1963. After a major flood, the town began to rebuild and relocate in the new town. Now, the old town still exists and still has lots of commercial and residential properties down there, but they were flooded first. There has been more extensive flooding on Vail Island, which is where the old town is. There's been more extensive flooding there. The evacuation there actually happened last Friday night. And then a lot of people, so like, for example, our hotel was completely full of people who had evacuated from Old Town last Friday when the notice went out, when the warning and the evacuation order went out. And then, of course, thinking this would be safe here until things settled down with the river. But, of course, now the new town has also been affected in several different places.
And we just listened to the voice of one of your fellow Hay River residents as she was leaving, evacuating with her family. You could hear the fear in her voice. I mean, to look at that river rise to places it has never been, as a longtime resident of that community, I mean, what do you feel looking at that, and what does it make you think?
Well, things have just changed so much. I mean, last year we had, record height of Great Slave Lake. Great Slave Lake's a huge lake, 10th largest freshwater lake in the world. And I mean, it was at record heights. The water table had broke records for the height. The river, the Hay River itself, at record heights. And then when we heard about snowpack in northern Alberta, which is part of the Hay River Basin, this winter was double normal recorded snowpacks for coming into the spring, and right now, we're not alone. Château, east of or west of High Level, some people were calling High Level last night trying to get hotel rooms, because that's only a 3-hour drive as opposed to a 5-hour drive to Yellowknife, and they were calling High Level and finding that there were no hotel rooms available. Well, that's because a community west of High Level with a population of 1,000 people had already evacuated to High Level from there. And then, of course, we heard further information in news last night that Paddle Prairie had also flooded, which is just 75 kilometers south of High Level. So it's this whole region, and when you watch the news, of course, it even seems like it's even spreads across different provinces as well. But for Hay River and our water basin, record highs on all fronts.
We're covering all of those flood stories actually this morning because it is serious in all of those communities that you mentioned. So Jane, again, just coming back, and we're looking from the air, incidentally, you mentioned the snowpack and the big chunks of ice. That's making things even more challenging as those chunks float through the water, making rescues difficult too. Again, just to touch on your own situation again, there you are in your commercial property downtown. There are people there with you, and you're all safe, thankfully. Just again, coming back to that sound last night around 11 o'clock when the alarm went off, were you sleeping? Can you just tell me what that initial moment was when you realized you had to get to higher ground?
I got a call from someone at the town of Hay River saying, Jane, you've got to get uptown. You have to go door to door and notify people in your buildings, because we have 3 apartment buildings in the downtown Hay River located on the river, on the shore, not the shore, but, located on the river front. And so that was my first indication that things were serious when Stefan called me and said, as a building owner, you need to get down there. So my husband and I, we took separate vehicles, and we both immediately came uptown, and my husband started going door to door and advising guests and tenants that there was an imminent need for them to report to the community hall.
Okay, you're safe. Is everybody that you know of around you safe and in a position of being secure for this morning? Then.
That's my understanding. It's really hard to know everything that went on because this was so multifaceted. It was in so many locations what was going on. But from what I know of this morning, everyone so far is safe.
That is a very positive note on which to conclude. And Jane, I thank you very much for your time sharing your experience, and we'll be in touch as you join us. And thanks for the overnight conversation. I really appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Thanks, Heather.